All right, ready for a deep dive? Today, it's boredom. And not just any boredom. We're going deep with Kierkegaard.
Always a good time with Kierkegaard.
Right. We usually think of boredom as like just lacking stimulation,
Right.
maybe even something we're, a bit embarrassed about.
Yeah.
But Kierkegaard, he flips the script.
He really does.
Boredom, for him, it's this profound existential thing.
Yeah.
And he even went as far as to call it, get this, the root of all evil.
There's that Kierkegaardian drama, right? Never one to shy away from a strong statement. But when he says that boredom's the root of all evil, he's not talking about like snacking when you're restless. It's deeper. He's connecting it to this idea that boredom is a rejection of all the things we could be.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. We humans, we have such incredible capacity for creativity, for love, for connection. But when we just surrender to boredom, it's like we're turning away from all of that.
We're choosing emptiness over engagement.
Exactly.
Okay, so I get that.
Yeah.
But to say all sin comes from boredom, I mean, what about like violence, aggression? Those things don't really seem like they come from just being bored.
You're right to push back on that. Even some of Kierkegaard's biggest fans would say he loved to be a little provocative. But let's look at it another way. Violence, aggression, a lot of times they come from frustration.
Right.
Feeling powerless, feeling like meaningless. And could those feelings, maybe they come from a kind of boredom, like existentially, disconnected from what really matters.
Whoa. Okay, I see that connection. So maybe it's not that boredom directly causes those actions, but more that it sets the stage for them.
That's it. It creates this void, this emptiness that we try to fill with things, some good, some, well, not so good.
Thinking about it, my own experience with boredom, it usually starts with just feeling like nothing matters, that indifference.
Right.
Then I get restless and suddenly I'm like scrolling endlessly on my phone or binge watching whatever's on. Anything to just escape that feeling.
You've just perfectly described those Kierkegaardian stages of boredom. The indifference, that's stage one. And if you don't address it, boom, stage two, seeking diversion.
Right.
And let's be honest, our world today is overflowing with diversions.
Right.
We're bombarded with stimuli constantly. It's like we're addicted to distraction.
And that constant distraction, like never just sitting with ourselves and our own thoughts, that's what maybe leads to stage three, despair.
Exactly. When we depend on all that external stuff to fill the void, we lose touch with what's inside us. We become like just passive consumers of everything instead of actually participating in our own lives. And that can lead to feeling really meaningless. Despair.
It's getting a little heavy, huh?
Yeah.
We started with boredom on the couch, and now we're staring into the abyss.
A bit, yeah.
So, is there any hope here? Did Kierkegaard give us a way out?
Oh, he did. But before we get to his solutions, let's talk about this idea of boredom being uniquely human.
Okay.
Kierkegaard, he believed animals, they could be unoccupied, sure, but not bored in the same way we are.
Because squirrels aren't having existential crises.
Exactly. It's our self-awareness, our ability to think about our own existence, where we fit in the world. That's what makes us vulnerable to boredom. It's almost like the price we pay for having these rich inner lives.
So it's not just about having nothing to do. It's about like grappling with what it means to be. That's a lot to carry.
It is. And that's why his ideas on dealing with boredom are so important. He didn't just point at the problem. He offered ways to like transform this potentially bad thing into something good.
All right, let's get to those solutions. I think we could all use some of that Kierkegaardian wisdom right now.
So I bet you're wondering, what's the magic cure for boredom, according to Kierkegaard? Well, let me tell you, it might not be what you expect. He wasn't about offering quick fixes or like a top 10 list of how to not be bored.
Okay, good, because I'm not really into those listicles anyway.
Right. Instead, he's talking about a deeper change, like a fundamental shift in how we approach, well, life itself.
Ooh, fundamental shifts. Sounds intense.
It can be, yeah. But that was Kierkegaard's whole thing, confronting those big questions, the stuff that really matters.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
Well, he'd say step one is recognizing that real fulfillment, it doesn't come from distractions, the external stuff.
Right.
It comes from finding meaning and purpose from within.
So it's not about finding the perfect hobby or the best show to binge. It's about connecting with something, I don't know, deeper, something that gives our lives direction.
Exactly. And that's something, it's going to be different for everyone.
Right.
For some people, it's a creative passion. For others, it's maybe social justice, a spiritual practice, or even just, really being present in your relationships.
Yeah,
The key is that it aligns with like your core values. It makes you feel like you're a part of something bigger.
I like that. But what about someone who feels totally lost? Like they've been in a rut for so long that they don't even know what their purpose is anymore.
Kierkegaard had something to say about that too, and this might sound a bit counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm listening.
He'd say, embrace that uncertainty. Don't get stuck trying to figure out your whole life's plan before you even start.
Right.
Instead, explore. Try things. Get out of your comfort zone.
I needed to hear that.
It's often in those moments of trying something new, even feeling a little uncomfortable, that we discover what really speaks to us.
So instead of agonizing over finding our one true passion, we should be out there experimenting, seeing what sparks our interest, what makes us feel, I don't know, alive.
Exactly. That pottery class you've always been curious about? Sign up. Always wanted to write. Start putting words on the page. Feel drawn to volunteering. Go for it.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be beginners again. Rediscovering that sense of curiosity, that wonder we often lose as we get older. And actually, when you put it like that, it feels less scary and more, well, exciting, like an adventure.
Speaking of adventure, that brings us to another one of Kierkegaard's ideas, the rotational method. Now remember, he was writing in the 19th century, way before our, hyper-connected, always-on world.
Yeah, no smartphones back then.
Right. But his ideas, they're surprisingly relevant to how we experience boredom today.
Okay, tell me more about this rotational method. It doesn't actually involve spinning, does it?
No spinning required. Basically, it's about intentionally rotating between different activities, different interests, to avoid getting stuck in those ruts, those mindless patterns that lead to boredom.
So instead of like doom scrolling on social media for hours.
Exactly. Kierkegaard, he noticed that when we do the same things over and over, our minds, they kind of stagnate. We lose that freshness, that sense of engagement that keeps us, well, feeling alive.
It's like we need to diversify our mental portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Not put all our eggs in one basket.
That's a great way to put it. Think about it. You wouldn't eat the same meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, right? Your body needs variety, different nutrients to thrive.
Yeah, you'd get pretty sick of just like cereal all day.
Exactly. Well, your mind, it needs variety too. Different experiences, different stimuli to stay engaged and prevent boredom from creeping in.
It makes me think about how so many people today feel stuck in these ruts. Same job, same social media feeds, same types of shows. It's no wonder they feel bored.
That's such a good point. And it's easy to fall into that trap, But the good news is we have the power to break free. We can choose to be more intentional, more varied in our lives.
So how do we actually do that? How do we apply this rotational method in our modern world?
Well, it starts with being aware of your own patterns. What are those things you do automatically, day in and day out? Once you've identified them, you can brainstorm ways to shake things up a bit.
For me, it's definitely spending too much time on social media. I get sucked into that endless scroll and suddenly an hour is gone and I feel drained, not inspired.
So with the rotational method, you might set specific times for social media, maybe just 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. And then you fill the rest of your day with things that actually feed your mind and soul, things you really enjoy. Like going for a walk in nature, reading a book that makes you think, having a deep conversation with a friend, whatever brings you joy and helps you grow.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional with our time and energy, choosing experiences that nourish us, instead of just numbing us out.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our agency, becoming active participants in our lives rather than just passive consumers of distractions.
This whole rotational method, it's really clicking with me. It's like Kierkegaard is giving us this practical way to break free from those ruts, the ones that lead to boredom and then eventually despair. But there's this one piece we haven't really talked about yet.
Oh, what's that?
Joy. We've talked about meaning, purpose, engaging with life more intentionally, all that. But what about just feeling joy? Did Kierkegaard have anything to say about actually, cultivating more joy in our lives?
He did. And again, it might surprise you. For Kierkegaard, true joy, it wasn't about chasing pleasure or those fleeting happy moments. It wasn't about, all the stuff you have or achieving some big success. He saw joy as like a result of living a meaningful life, one that's lined up with your values, your purpose.
So it's not about forcing a smile or pretending everything's perfect. It's more about finding this deeper sense of contentment from the inside out.
Exactly. Imagine like two people. One is always chasing validation from outside, always striving for a better job, a bigger house, more followers, all that.
Right.
And the other person, they're focused on their relationships, their passions, contributing to something beyond themselves. Who do you think is going to experience more genuine joy?
I mean, it seems pretty obvious, right? The person focused on those deeper things, those intrinsic values. But for someone who's been stuck in that external validation game, how do they even begin to, change their mindset?
It starts with self-reflection, which, as we've seen, is a huge part of what Kierkegaard was all about. It's asking yourself those tough questions. What truly matters to me? What makes me feel fulfilled? What kind of mark do I want to leave on the world? Once you start to get clear on those values, then you can start making choices that align with them, even if those choices aren't what everyone else expects.
It's like what you said before about embracing uncertainty. Sometimes finding joy means taking that less traveled path, even if it's a little scary.
You got it. And another thing Kierkegaard was a big believer in, gratitude.
Yeah.
He saw it as this antidote to boredom and despair, a way to shift your focus from what you're lacking to what you already have, appreciating the simple things.
Yeah, like a warm drink on a cold day, a real connection with someone, the beauty of nature. It sounds so basic, but it's powerful too. It makes me think about those people who just radiate joy even when things are tough. It's like they found this inner peace that doesn't depend on what's happening around them.
That's exactly what Kierkegaard was getting at. True joy, you don't find it somewhere out there. You cultivate it within by living in line with what matters, practicing gratitude, and approaching the world with, a sense of wonder.
We started this deep dive talking about boredom as the root of all evil, which honestly sounded kind of bleak, but we've ended up in a place of hope and possibility.
Yeah.
It's like Kierkegaard is showing us that boredom, this thing we usually think of as the enemy, it can be this catalyst for a more meaningful and even joyful life.
That's the thing about his work. He doesn't sugarcoat the difficult stuff, but he always points you towards the light.
Yeah.
He reminds us that even when we're struggling, we have this power to choose how we engage with life, and ultimately to create a life that's full of meaning, purpose, and, joy.
This has been an incredible journey. We went from existential despair to the heights of human potential. What's the biggest takeaway for you from all this exploring of Kierkegaard and boredom?
I think it's that reminder. Boredom isn't a life sentence. It's like a signal, a call to action, to dig deeper, look at your life, and make choices that align with your hopes and dreams. Maybe, just maybe, it's the key to finding a life that's more joyful, more fulfilling.
So next time you're feeling that boredom creep in, don't give in to despair. Use it. Listen to what it's trying to tell you. Who knows? You might just discover a path to a life that's way more meaningful, way more joyful.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Søren Kierkegaard. We hope it's given you something to think about and maybe a new way to look at boredom.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep searching for those moments of true joy.
Yeah.